Hi, and thanks for stopping by to see what your health coach thinks. This is the place to have the most frequently asked questions that I get answered, hopefully. I'm going to try to clear up for you today a little bit about gluten. Everybody is asking me about gluten. It's everywhere you go. It's on the cover of magazines. It's the topic in health circles and on TV shows. Most of you probably know by now what gluten is. If you don't, here's a little definition. Gluten is basically the protein that's in wheat that gives it its elasticity and gives the the word that I'm looking for I'm losing, but it makes dough doughy. In other words, it gives it the elasticity that it needs and the cohesiveness. That's the word I needed, cohesiveness, to make it dough. Think glue when you think gluten. So most people ask, should I give it up? Everybody else seems to. I've got everybody telling me I need to. Well, that choice is yours, unless, of course, you've been diagnosed with celiac or you definitely have been told by your doctor that you have a gluten intolerance. Then for sure you need to stay away from anything gluten. I don't want to go into a whole lot about those things, celiac disease or true gluten intolerance. This isn't necessarily the place for that kind of a thing. What I want to do now is just give you some tips if you choose to go gluten-free because you think that it might help you feel better, because there's a lot of cases of wheat belly and just feeling bad after you eat things that have a lot of gluten in them. A lot of wheat products will make you feel kind of bloated and give you a stomach ache sometimes, or make you retain a lot of weight around your middle. So if you are thinking of going gluten-free, keep these little things in mind. Number one, people ask, well, I am going gluten-free. Can I buy gluten-free products at my grocery store? The answer is absolutely every grocery store on the planet has, well, I shouldn't say on the planet, in this country anyway, has a gluten-free section. It's called produce. Find the produce section in your grocery store, and really for an overall healthy diet, that's where you want to be living anyway. Make friends with the grocers, make friends with the produce person, and find out what's good, what's in season. Go, squeeze some mangoes and pick up some chard, find some kale, investigate, find out what you like, try some new things, but really concentrate the majority of your diet in the produce section, and you'll be doing good because there's no gluten in broccoli or peaches or any of the other wonderful things you can find in the produce section. Now, the hard part is when we decide to go gluten-free, what we find out is we want to eat the same way that we've been eating, which is typically a lot of processed foods with a lot of wheat in them anyway. We like pizza and bagels and donuts and pretzels and all kinds of yummy, delicious things that we don't necessarily have to get rid of altogether if we're going gluten-free, because there are things that are made with rice flour and tapioca and things that are gluten-free that we can add into our diets. The bad part is what we want to do is make an exact substitution, have a gluten-free bread sandwich every single day, and that's where we start to run into trouble, because those rice flours and tapioca and a lot of the other things that gluten-free foods are made with are very, very binding and can still cause a lot of digestive trouble if you're not careful. So instead of going to this new gluten-free lifestyle where you're basically looking to replace your pizza dough and your bagels and your sandwich bread with new gluten-free versions, number one, that's really expensive to do, and number two, it's not really good for your digestive system. So add those things in as, I don't want to say treats, but cut back on them. Look for ways to add that produce in and do some fun things with vegetables and fruits instead of having to have your sandwich on a bread. Maybe some chard. You can roll up and make a healthy roll or a wrap in chard or collard leaves or even romaine lettuce. There's so many cool things that you can do when you're going gluten-free and trying to change up your diet. Something you definitely want to be aware of and be careful of. If you are gluten intolerant or have celiac, absolutely you need to be aware of and be careful, because a lot of things say gluten-free and they really aren't. There is no government agency that is regulating whether or not a product can have a gluten-free label, and if it does, there's no regulation stating how those things are produced. So just because something says gluten-free on it doesn't mean that it is definitely completely free of all gluten. So be aware and be careful and search out companies that do have separate facilities, like Bob's Red Mill, I think it's one off the top that I remember, has a completely separate facility for producing things that are gluten-free. And so do your research and make sure that you are finding things that are truly gluten-free. And be aware too that it's not just food that has gluten in it. You have a lot of cosmetics, body lotions, sauces, and that's food, I know, but sauces like soy sauce and alcoholic beverages, a lot of medications even have gluten in them. So if you're going to totally do away with gluten, you need to be aware of all of the areas in your lifestyle that you're going to be getting gluten in, because your skin is your largest organ. So if you're using body lotion that has some gluten in it, you're going to still experience problems because it's still being absorbed into your system. And one final note on being gluten-free. It is a definite lifestyle change. It is probably going to benefit you because you'll be including a lot more of those good, delicious greens and fresh fruits and vegetables into your diet. So you're going to feel better and be healthier overall. If you think that you have such a serious problem with wheat belly, or that it may actually be something like celiac, I would highly advise you not to give up on gluten just yet. If you are going to talk to your doctor about being tested for any gluten sensitivities or celiac disease, don't stop with the gluten. If you do, you won't get a true, correct test result when you do go and get tested for that. So thank you very much for listening to what the health coach has to say about gluten.